We all feeling ready?
Yeah.
Y'all been ready.
Yeah.
Okay. Here on the Sip and Soda Show, we sit down with people and organizations that somehow, someway, make the world better. Come hang out with us. Get connected, get educated. I guarantee you're going to get uplifted. I'm your host, Unapologetically Anna. Let's go. I'm sitting with Dawn Lovig. Hi, Dawn.
Hey, Anna.
How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good, because we survived a lot of coldness to get here.
Oh, did we ever?
We did. Well, you're a native Minnesotan.
I grew up here, but I've been away for like 24 years, so it's an adjustment to come back.
And that's why I invited you on the show. I want to have an open, honest communication about readjusting to Minnesota culture. And culture's what introduced me to you. I met you because where do we both work?
Paisley Park.
Dawn and I are both tour guides at Paisley Park. Prince was a huge part of Minnesota culture and the music scene, and we get to help preserve the legacy.
Absolutely.
It's pretty amazing. Are you liking our new gig?
I'm so happy to come back home and to be able to spend time in Paisley Park. I've taught students all over the world about Prince, and the Paisley Park atrium was actually my Zoom background when I was teaching online, so it's nice to be there in reality instead of just virtually.
So, where have you been 24 years?
I've been teaching music in schools overseas, so I started out straight after I graduated college. I moved to northern Mexico. I was in Torreon just for 1 year, and then moved down to Mexico City, and I absolutely loved living there. But then I moved on to a school in Tunis, in Tunisia, North Africa. I remember coming home and going to a garage sale here and saying, "Oh, I'm buying this to take back to my apartment in Tunis." And somebody said, "Oh, is that by the golf course?" And I was like, "No, it's in North Africa." So I was there for 4 years, and then went to grad school in Hawaii, which was wonderful.
Yeah.
Then went back to teaching. I was in Vietnam, an international school in Indiana, and then Germany, Egypt, Hungary, Paraguay, and Romania most recently before moving back here.
I came back to Minnesota the same time as you. I came in July. When did you come?
In July as well.
I had previously lived here 16 years. I'm obviously not a native. I think the way I speak is a dead giveaway, right? I'm a Mississippian. I moved here at 19. I was brought back to the South for 9 years. And this July, I came to visit. Well, I'm still here. So I think I live here now. I don't know. I mean, it's starting to look that way. I'm a Minnesotan again. I am. And I noticed there is so much to readjust to.
Yes.
As an American and as someone who hasn't lived outside of the United States, I'm really cognizant of regional differences, so I still have an adjustment. But you have even more of an adjustment. You've spent 2 years in the United States in the past 24 years of your life. Being gone, the past 10?
Yeah, 10 years.
Welcome home.
Since I left Indiana. Yeah.
Thanks. Welcome back. Welcome back. So, what do you think is your biggest adjustment?
At the beginning, it was just coming back to the United States without much of an American paper trail. So trying to do all of the bureaucracy of, even though I had maintained a Minnesota driver's license, thank you to being able to use the parents as a permanent address. But even though I had that license, I didn't have, for example, car insurance. So buying a car, I couldn't easily get car insurance because I didn't have car insurance, even though I'd been driving overseas with an international permit and I have a Minnesota license. It was so hard to get the paperwork. Of course, I had like to try and get an apartment and to not have a job right away, and all my jobs were in foreign currency, and so trying to pool all of my international banking papers to prove that I could live somewhere.
Oh, there's a lot more
There
to
is
this.
so much paperwork, and I thought, like, I mean, it was just thing after thing of trying to get settled here and finding more and more roadblocks because I didn't have that paper trail. I couldn't get a real ID because I didn't have months of paperwork coming to a physical address. So it was very difficult, and I thought, if it's this hard, like, for an American to come back and get all the paperwork done, you know, the empathy I have for people that actually are coming from other countries and don't have any paperwork to start with in the United States, like how much more difficult it would be, because it really, like, it was at least a couple of months of just stressing about papers.
And you know, you and I have talked about job search, everything that comes with a relocation event in your life. But I never thought about what you just said about the paperwork. So realistically, you're 2 months behind me, or 3 months. I don't know the exact. But you see what I'm saying? It's like you're behind me because you had to establish proof of your existence and your ability.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I love learning new things, and I love sitting down and talking to people and discovering the things that I wouldn't normally have thought about. It's like it helps build compassion.
Absolutely.
It helps. I mean, the mission of Magnolia Mouse is to connect, educate, uplift. Okay? And I feel like that's what conversations with you do all the time, because the little new things I learn. What do you think is different about, not necessarily American culture, but Minnesota culture within America?
I mean, there is that concept of Minnesota nice, right? Like, people talk about that and what it means, you know, on the surface, just the two words of, oh, we like to think that everybody's so nice, but then there is that sort of passive-aggressive, bottling everything up, not quite knowing where you stand with people, where I've gotten used to maybe a bit more open, transparent communication style with my friends overseas, because you just meet them and you're getting to know them, so you're much more open in a way that I've had to kind of readjust to here. And I think I remember when I was visiting a friend in Norway even, and he was talking about trying to do job applications and the difference of international applications and trying to get grant funding versus in Norway, he would say, oh, I'm writing these international applications for money, and so I need to really talk up what I'm doing. I need to make it sound like I've done all these amazing projects. But then his Norwegian university professors would say, no, you can't write that. That's bragging too much. You can't put that there.
Yeah, bragging.
And I connected with that, like thinking of, you know, kind of our Scandinavian heritage here in Minnesota, as like, yeah, you don't want to do that. You just, like, everyone just kind of does their thing, but you don't want to stand out too much or try to look like you're better than anyone else. So it was a fun, kind of unexpected international connection when we were talking about that, and how you know, they talk about code switching, and you even do that within just moving around the world in different places, how you need to adapt, how you handle yourself, and how you communicate. And now that I'm back here, trying to remember how to function as a Minnesotan.
Do you think that you got kind of loud and brass again in other countries after Norway? Like, I'm proud of what I did, and I own my confidence, and, you know, like me, because I'm loud. And,
that is one thing that I don't think I ever really did do. I think the Minnesotan roots ran deep on that one, because I would have conversations with people from other cultures, and they're like, you never talk about this thing. Like, how did I not know these things about you? And I was like, I don't know, I don't talk about it.
I never knew you played the trumpet. I remember piano, and I feel like some Polynesian instruments, or are you just influenced?
Yeah, a bit of ukulele, and I studied Tahitian drumming and dancing.
And then all of a sudden we're talking and you play the trumpet. I mean, Minnesotans are very humble. I got to go back to Minnesota Nice, though. She brought it up, not me, because it is such a big deal. Minnesota Nice. People are really nice here, first of all. I don't take that from Minnesotans at all. Minnesotans are nice. It is a very kind culture. However, I feel like Minnesota Nice and Bless Your Heart are very similar, right? Bless Your Heart, really, in the southeast of the United States, that's not a wonderful phrase.
Yeah.
I mean, that basically means, and Minnesota Nice can mean I'm going to disapprove, I'm going to judge, or I'm going to be angry, but I'm going to do it with a smile.
Right.
And I'm going to be passive aggressive. Have you ever heard of Red Savoy's?
No.
Red Savoy's pizza, their sauce is passive aggressive pizza sauce. I love it. It's hilarious. It really is. But also with that, I feel like there's like an extra level of anxiety. So sometimes if something makes sense, I'm going to go ahead and do it because this is more efficient. It's faster, whether it's a line or traffic. Whereas someone who's Minnesotan would say, oh, well, I don't want to offend them. Or, oh, and that is kind. But sometimes it makes things slower or,
Yeah.
There's a lot of dancing.
Yes, definitely.
So my personality's loud. Do you remember the other day in the coffee shop, a man was going to the bathroom? This is a perfect example, I think. This man is going to a bathroom that I know requires a code. I see him and I go, hey, if you need the code, I got it. And you and another Minnesotan were like, there's an example of how you're different. Because you just called that man out. But I thought I was being helpful. I thought I was being helpful. I don't know. And you also do this beautiful lace work.
Yeah, when I was living in Paraguay, I went there with the idea of playing the harp, learning to play the harp, which is their national instrument. And when I started taking Spanish lessons to try and make my grammar more correct, it ended up that my teacher was from a town that does Nanduti, that is known for this type of art. And so she arranged a field trip. We got to meet a master lace maker and go to a museum that had all of these beautiful pieces. And several of us decided to take classes. So she transformed our Spanish classes into lace making classes, into Nanduti classes.
They're so beautiful. And some you've replicated off of architecture.
So I started, the first one you held up was more of a traditional style, and then once I was in Bucharest, Romania, I started kind of seeing the Nanduti patterns, like filling in the world around me and all of the beautiful Art Deco railings and doors. So I started kind of a series of from iron to lace, so turning all of these beautiful Art Deco ironworks into sort of traditional, using the traditional techniques of Nanduti, but in a little bit different way.
The detail in this is amazing. And this is reflective, or this is, where was this located in the world? Where's the iron?
So all of the architectural ones, I started with actually a Frank Lloyd Wright series and did 3 of his windows in lace, and then the examples that I have here today, these are different, like this was a door in Bucharest, Romania. So all 3 of those pieces, and several more in works, in process. Like this was a railing, and this was a window that I just walk by every day in my neighborhood in Bucharest.
Yeah. I want to talk about the importance of education, and I want to talk about the difference between the education in other countries in America. But we're going to talk about one of the topics right now, which is censorship. I'll let you lead the way on that one.
Well, several years ago, as I was starting to think about what I might want to do after teaching, a friend said, well, you should be a librarian. And I was like, oh, I've never wanted to do anything more. That sounds ideal. Like, I just love researching, and I can't wait to, like, show the coolest books and most obscure magazine and journal articles to people. That would be so much fun. And it wasn't long after that that we started seeing all of these news articles and segments about how librarians were receiving death threats. They were being threatened. They were having to pull books from the shelves because of parents at schools, people in the community didn't like topics that were being put on the shelves in the books. And my thoughts of being a librarian went out the window. And I do think I was so lucky in international schools that all of the schools I taught in for the past several years have been really great at trusting teachers to teach appropriate information to their students, and to be able to really push critical thinking skills, to have the students have dialogues about controversial topics. And I think those skills are under attack right now in some places, where we don't want people to think for themselves. We don't want people to have access to this information. We want to tell you the information you should have access to. And I think that is so scary when I look at countries that I've lived in, even, that were under dictatorships, that were under authoritarian rule. That is one of the first things in the playbook, is start dictating what people can read, what people can listen to, put out the propaganda engines. So it's really scary to hear that kind of rhetoric here in this country.
Do you think that the United States educational system is more censored than other countries? And maybe that even depends on if it's Europe, Asia, or Africa.
I mean, it's hard to say. The U.S. is such a huge country, and there are so many different state laws, local laws, charter schools that all can play by different rules depending on where you are. So I think it's not really fair to make a blanket statement. I think there are schools here that are really fighting the good fight to keep students informed, and communities that do value open information.
But for a free country, we are controlling information on sex education, information on, well, really anything related to sex, period, sexual identity. I mean, I feel like we do a huge disservice because we're controlling. I just hesitated because I don't want to use the word we're, because I'm not. I was very open and honest with my children. If they asked a question, they got an answer, as they should have. But it's a free country, and it just seems so unacceptable.
Because I think, like, even access to how history is being contextualized. Like, people should be able to read things from different sources. Thinking about like the 1619 Project, and that was, I think, banned in Florida. You can't talk about the 1619 Project, right? And it's one of the arguments seems to be that we don't want our white kids to feel bad, and it's, I've had that feeling living in Vietnam and living in Paraguay and living in all these countries where America has really had an influence, and a lot of it I didn't know about because I was not taught all those chapters of our history. To learn.
And then you go to another country and you're like, oh,
yeah,
we did this.
And again, it's not me personally, but it definitely contextualizes, if you hear people chanting America first, there's a complicated history there that doesn't address a lot of different perspectives in the world. Like, we haven't always been the hero. And
starting the day we came to this country. Okay, right? So
And
there's that.
you know, it doesn't have to necessarily make you feel bad, but it should make you think.
We are having similar experiences readjusting to Minnesota culture. However, for me, I was still in America. I was in the Southeast. I'm back, and now I live in a city where 20% of the population is Asian, where there are at least 20 more countries represented in St. Paul, Minnesota than in Meridian, Mississippi. I can go eat fine cuisine from so many other countries. I get to hear 4 or 5 languages a day. I'm just completely immersed in culture. You were immersed in culture firsthand in other countries, and now you're back and maybe feel a little less culture. Meanwhile, I'm running around like Chicken Little. I'm not telling people the sky's falling, but I'm sitting in city meetings and county meetings, and I'm telling people, y'all don't realize how good you have it. Quit complaining about the small stuff because Minnesota has it so good, because we do. Yeah. To explain the Twin Cities is hard. To explain how someone from Minneapolis would think St. Paul's so far away, I cried. In 2002, when I left Minneapolis and came to St. Paul, you would have thought I was losing my whole life. But yeah, I was buying my first home and about to have a child. Everything wonderful was happening, but I cried because I was leaving Minneapolis, and all the fun was going to be over. You couldn't pay me to live in Minneapolis, and not because I'm against it, but because I love St. Paul so much.
It's been so fun to learn about all of the great arts and culture that is on this side of the river.
Mm-hmm.
I still go to Minneapolis. I still love it.
We got the best Thai food in St. Paul, though.
But yeah, it's been really fun to come and explore. It is exploring a whole new city and a little bit different culture.
So when you come back on, we're going to talk about education in all these 11 countries and just a little more how amazing you are. I might be bringing you to my episode at the Hmong Museum, too.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So thank y'all so much for tuning in. Welcome home, Dawn. Y'all, I hope you feel a little more connected. I hope you learned something, and I hope you stay up with it. Have a great day.